Brother, understand that you do not have a motivation problem. So stop trying to fix motivation. I'm sure you've been told all of it. Oh, just stay consistent. Find your why. Oh, just push through. But how much of that stuff actually held? How much did that result in you making genuine progress towards your goal? Not much. That's why you're watching this video. Because the problem was never your character. The problem was never your effort, your motivation, how much you wanted it. That was never the case at all. The truth of the matter is that your environment was doing the deciding before you did, right? And when you sit down tired, right, fatigued, long day, that's not weakness. It's simply your environment is now offering you the path of least resistance. You sit down, your phone is right next to your desk. When comparing that with the work you have to do, 9 times out of 10, you'll just pick up, oh, I just need a quick break. Let me take a quick scroll. Next thing you know, you look up at the clock and 3 hours is gone. Now you don't want to work at all. Right? You sit down to work. That tab is already open on your computer. You left the YouTube rabbit hole open from that last night's binge session. That Netflix tab is open with the latest episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Right? All of this stuff already open, just waiting to suck you and draw you right in. You're dealing with asymmetric friction. When it comes to the work, you feel a lot of resistance, but your distractions are right there in front of you, right within hand's reach. So no wonder that you can't focus, that you can't stay consistent, that you can't build momentum. Your environment is quite literally designed to work against you. Then you throw motivation into the mix. It's by design unreliable. It was never built to carry a system. It was never built to push you forward to new heights, to genuinely accomplishing that which you set out to do. Yes, it might get you a little bit here and a little bit there, but eventually it runs out. It always does, and you're right back at square zero. All of these factors are playing against you, and what you're actually fighting rather than yourself is your environment. And I would know is because I built this the hard way. Um, Again, I've tried it all: motivation systems, resets, willpower, motivation, dopamine detox, everything under the sun. And none of it survived when the days got hard. None of it held when I was tired, when I didn't feel like getting out of bed, when I felt like just lazing around scrolling on my phone all day. So what I changed was I stopped trying to fix my mentality, my mindset. And I started fixing my environment, the tangible, the things that I could move, the things that I could change and shift that would make distractions significantly harder and make focus significantly easier. And again, I was able to build execution that held whenever it didn't matter if I was tired, sleepy, unmotivated, lazy, all of which are bound to happen at some point. But because I designed a system, the system did not care how I felt. The system simply ran. And that's what you need: a system that holds no matter what happens, no matter what you go through. The system is always going to be there. I even ran this with one of my clients recently. His system held even on the worst weeks because the triggers were built in. It accounted for everything that would have pulled him off track, everything that would have triggered him down a negative dopamine spiral. The system had fail safes built in for each and every single one of those. The second day came up, he was able to overcome and he was able to lock in. Right? It's not something, he didn't just summon motivation, woo woo, ha ha. No, it's because a tangible system in place, a fail safe was in place, so that no matter what happened within the day, no matter what form of chaos the world decided to throw his way, he was able to sit down and execute on his goals. Very simple, right? Being able to, change the design of your environment, right? Putting the fail safes, the system in place will take you an extremely long way. And so, again, the solution here is execution by design, not by mood, not by, motivation, but intentional, specific design. And in order to do so, each one, having its own design fix, not a mindset fix. So this is not a mindset lecture. This is not a motivation lecture. If that's what you were expecting, if you were expecting to come out of this video inspire, 3 a.m. motivation, let's do 100 push-ups, you might as well just leave now. This is not what you're looking for. This is a walkthrough on architecture, and by the end, you'll know exactly what to change, and none of it is going to require you feeling ready. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Understand that the first friction point is the start is the hardest part. So, very simple, you need to shrink the start. The unfortunate matter is that our brains tend to evaluate the full cost of doing a task before said task begins. And when you're evaluating that task, it begins to look like a mountain inside of your head. And now you're at the bottom, figuring out how in the world do I get to the top? You don't even want to try. You don't even want to start, right? Telling yourself that, oh, well, I'll work on the project. It's a very massive cognitive load, right? So shrink it. Instead of working on the project, instead of finishing the deadline, open the document. You want to make the task, make the entry point so small that you feel insulted by doing it. Like imagine you have a boss, right? You have a job and he tells you to do something really simple. Oh, I just need you to go and open the door. You can go home, right? You need to feel insulted by that. Like, excuse me? Like, just open the door. Is that all you think I'm capable of doing? You need to make this entry point, this entry objective so small that you feel insulted by being asked to do it. Like your identity is being challenged, like your intelligence is being put on trial. Okay. And again, the smallest possible first action is going to eliminate that startup resistance. Some ways you can do this 2 minute rule, by James Clear. It's not productivity advice, it's friction math, it's an execution standard. So, what exactly does that look like? Well, first of all, you need to define the minimum entry point. It's not about doing less, but specifically about removing the decision barrier before you sit down. So, first, you need to pre decide the first action, right? Not the session, just the first move, the single step. Plan this out in advance and make it extremely small. Make it embarrassingly small. Excuse me. Open the file, writing a single sentence. Set the timer, right? That's enough to begin. Because what you'll notice is that once you start, you're going to keep going. Newton's law of motion. Objects in motion stay in motion. Once you get in motion, you're not going to stop until you get to a significant stopping point or just finish the task altogether. And you want to keep this visible as well. Once that entry point is defined, you want to make it concrete, not just something in your head like, oh, okay, I'll wake up tomorrow morning and write the document. No, I want you to put it on paper, write it somewhere, put it on a whiteboard, sticky note on your monitor. I don't care. Just make it real. If it's in your head, it's going to just float off and you'll never think of it again, and you're not going to get anything done. Okay? So, again, phone lock screen, top of your document, it doesn't matter. The action lives somewhere where you can see it. Once it's visible, now it's top of your mind. It's framed in the front of your consciousness, and you are not going to forget what that thing is. Right? So, very simple question you should ask yourself. What is the single smallest action that starts my most important task? That is your entry point. I'm going to stop speaking for 5 seconds, and I want you to figure that thing out. Good. Let's continue. Now, point number two is that your workspace is unfortunately designed to distract you. Now, this is not about some, phone addiction, but it's about your default friction direction. If the path of least resistance leads you away from the work, the tired version of you, that unmotivated you that doesn't want to get out of bed, is always going to take that path. So your environment is going to make decisions faster than your prefrontal cortex, right? Your environment already decides before you make the conscious effort to, oh, wait, should I do this? Should I not do this? No, your environment has already determined that. So ask yourself, what is physically closer right now? Your phone or your next task? If you said your phone, then that means something needs to change here. So redesigning the path of least resistance. So think about it like this. There's always two pathways that we can take when it comes to making a decision. There's the easy option and there's the difficult option. Again, this is not complicated. If there's an easy option versus a difficult option, our brain is naturally going to want to take the easy option. The reason that this is so dangerous is because 9 times out of 10, that easy option is some form of high stimulation, dopamine distraction, right? It's not going to be the work that you need to get done. What we need to do here is flip the script. right? Make distraction that path of difficult resistance, and make getting the work done the path of easy, least resistance. How does one do that? Very simple. First, you need to distance the distractions, right? Put your phone in another room, close the tabs, notifications off. This needs to be done before you sit down, not after, not during, because once you're, trying to get rid of it, you're probably just going to get pulled in. And next thing you know, 5 hours is gone. You haven't done a single thing, and now you're feeling guilty and defeated. Oh my goodness, I'm not cut out for this. Might as well quit and might as well keep scrolling for the rest of the day, right? You would know you've been there multiple times, right? This needs to be eliminated before you even have the conception of sitting down to work, right? Get all that stuff out the way. Make it what you want to do is you want to make the distraction feel unnecessarily effortful to do. You want to literally tell yourself in your brain, I don't feel like doing that. It would take too much work. If you can get your distraction to that point, I guarantee you are going to get a lot done throughout the day. Next, you need to cut the work, right? Cue the work, rather. Your desk could be only for work, right? Same playlist, same chair. Environment signals the state, right? You need to think about it like this. When you walk into a library, what kind of thoughts cross your mind? Oh, this is a place where I need to read. This is where people work, right? This is where people come to get things done, right? When you go to a concert, what is the thing that goes through your head? Okay, this is live environment, time to party, time to have fun, time to sing some songs, right? I'm not too much of a concert head, but you get the idea, right? When you go into that environment, your brain naturally understands that there are specific actions I need to be carrying out at this time. Your desk needs to be the same way. When you sit down to work, your brain needs to understand that, hey, this is the time where I get things done. This is time where I'm going to sit down, where I'm going to lock in, where I'm going to make progress. So, again, very simple. You need to, kind of cue that designation. When you sit down, everything needs to tell your brain that it's time to lock in, that it's time to focus, right? Because our brains follow cues, and this can be very easily engineered. And last, you need to set it up the night before, right? Again, the night before setup is where execution actually happens, right? Again, once you pre-frame that, once you set the thing up, if you gotta work on this document, finish the project, open everything that needs to be used beforehand, the night before. That way, when you actually wake up, when you sit down, when you want to do it, there's no mental resistance there. The work is already there. You've already removed the distractions. It's just you and the task at hand. So naturally, you are going to carry out that task. On the flip side, if distraction is everywhere, if your workspace is doubling as a Netflix cove, then your brain isn't going to shift into execution mode cleanly. It's going to be split. It's like when you sit down and things get a little tough, they get a little boring, you get a little tired. Oh, just let me just take a 20-minute break, catch up on this series. Oh, let me watch the next episode. Oh, let me click this video here, right? And you might as well just say goodbye to your work block at that point. You're not going to go back to it. So you need to redesign your environment, make the work the path of least resistance. Point number three is that if you're waiting to feel ready, well, I hate to break it to you, that signal is never going to come. Because ready, it's a feeling that's produced by momentum. It's not a prerequisite to action, but it is the result of action. So if you wait to feel ready, that's it's just stupid. It's a bit idiotic, right? It's not going to come because the only way readiness appears is through taking action, right? You don't feel ready before the workout. You feel better after 10 minutes, right? After pumping the iron, after you're 10 minutes into that run. Now you feel raring and ready to go, right? Waiting for motivation is backwards. Action produces the state. It's not the other way around. A lot of the missed execution days that you tend to have are coming from you waiting to feel motivated. Oh, well, I'll do it when I feel inspired. And yeah, that motivation, that inspiration will come it will come at some point. But how often is that? How long does that last? And you would know for yourself. If that actually worked, you wouldn't have watched this far into the video because motivation would have taken you where you needed to go. But again, this is something that's everybody knows, right? Motivation is not consistent enough for you to make genuine progress to achieving anything. So you need to replace readiness with a trigger. So you need to, first of all, install a focus warm up, right? 5 to 10 minute ritual that signals to the brain, now is the time where I start to work. Right now is when I begin to shift my brain into a state of focus. Flipping that switch, I'm not in reaction mode or consumption mode. No, it's time to execute. A warm up routine, it's not, some kind of productivity theater, but it's kind of a neurological on ramp, right? Once you get on that ramp, now you're on the highway of focus, right? Now it's time to execute. Now it's time to lock in. This is something I build that personally with my clients. If that's something you're interested in learning a little bit more about, first link in the description, right? Next, same time, same sequence, right? Again, this ritual needs to remove the decision, right? Once the decision is removed, then resistance goes out the window as well. So some examples of how exactly you can establish your own focus warm-up routine is reviewing your one priority. What is the one thing that I need to get done within this block? What is the most high priority, high leverage task that I can finish right now that's going to bring me closer to my goal? Next, closing every tab, right? Removing everything that can, pull your focus away, that can distract you. Set a timer, set it for like 5 minutes and just do the task, right? Again, setting such a small time removes that initial resistance that you feel going into the work. That timer is going to hit. You're going to tell yourself, oh, I'm already here. I'm already working. Might as well continue doing it a little bit more, right? Now you're entering into a flow state. You're getting a lot of things done. But again, this has to be at the same time every time because consistency is what kind of builds that cue response loop. Okay, when 3 o'clock hits, I go for a workout. When it's 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm sitting down and I'm getting some focused work done. Right? If you do that enough times, it kind of becomes a focus circadian rhythm. Right? You don't need an alarm anymore because your body naturally wakes up at that time. You don't need to time block anymore because your body knows that at exactly 8 o'clock is when I work. So when I sit down at my desk at 8 o'clock, what am I going to do? I'm going to work, right? So, what's going to end up happening is that this trigger is going to fire regardless. No matter whether you feel like doing it. Oh, I'm not. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't feel like it. I'm too tired. I just want to scroll. No, it's going to happen because it's what you've trained your body to do. It's like building the neurological pathway within your mind. It's like this thing changed to that thing changed to this thing, and when that point hits, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to work. And again, this is what me and my client Justin ended up building out in our first week, right? The routine became the anchor even on the broken days, even when, his emotions were going through the mix, and even when he didn't feel like working, because we had built that foundation, because we had built this anchor, it didn't matter anymore. He was able to execute, he was able to get things done, and he was able to change a lot as well. So, moving on, right? Point number 4 is that no minimum standard means that every hard day is a full reset. What exactly am I talking about here? Without a floor, a bad day, becomes a skip day, right? Oh, one mistake happened here. One thing went wrong. Oh man, it's over. I can't continue onward anymore. Right, then that becomes a skipped day, and then that skipped day becomes a broken streak, which ends up resulting in a restart, right? Because one small mistake happened, chaos ensued, something came in that kind of threw you off track a little bit. There was no fail safe, there was no floor, so you just let it take over. Now you have to build your momentum from scratch when you could have just prevented that from ever happening. Excuse me, and kept on with your goal. And again, this is kind of like the all or nothing trap, right? You end up thinking, oh, if I can't do the full session, if I can't get the entire thing done, it's not worth it at all. Just wait until tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and you don't do it. It's like, oh, okay, I'll just do it tomorrow. You keep telling yourself tomorrow. Tomorrow's never going to happen. You're never going to get anything done. You're never going to change. This is where most people end up losing months, right? It's not to one bad day, but because they keep compounding the full reset without stopping it at its core and getting back on track. So, the remedy, very simple. You need a standard that survives a bad day. Not one that requires the perfect conditions, the everything, the stars are aligning. Now I can get things done. No, you need a standard that does not care what life throws at you. It remains the same. It's small enough to where you just get it done. It feels, again, silly to not get the thing done. So, what exactly does it look like? You need to set a daily minimum execution standard. So, You need to define, understand what exactly is your floor, right? What is the smallest thing that I can do today that still counts as a win, that still counts as progress, right? This is the version of work that you can do even on your worst day. If a hurricane comes and wipes out your house, your dog gets stolen, your car is keyed by your ex girlfriend, doesn't matter. If I get this thing done, I won, right? It's not some ideal. This very simple, just a small and non-negotiable. If everything else goes wrong in the day, if I get this thing done, I can count this as a dub. But it's not about lowering your standards, so don't misunderstand. It's about protecting continuity. It's protecting your momentum when chaos ensues, when, life throws you against the rails. When you have that failsafe in place, you're not going to just fall off track and start all the way from scratch because you lost your momentum, but it's going to stop that ball from, halting its progression. You're going to be able to do this thing, get back on track, keep the ball rolling, and you're going to achieve your goal. So the floor is what protects your streak, right? 20 minutes of real work, 5 minutes, 2 minutes of work is going to be zero every single time. Your identity stays intact because when you do nothing, you become the person who does nothing. But if you get up and work for 60 seconds, you become the person who, even if life decides it's going to, hate me today, right? And everything just goes wrong. It doesn't matter. I still get up and I still execute. That's an identity. And once that becomes your identity, it becomes your actions, which in turn become your reality. When you perceive yourself as someone who gets things done no matter what, whenever something happens that kind of goes against the natural flow, that goes against the grain, that's challenging you, it's not going to matter because you know who you are and your brain will naturally take the actions necessary to confirm that identity. Right. So bad days, they're not failure. It's data. It's something that you can use to further optimize the system. You still showed up, right? The system held, and that's the only thing that matters, right? The fact that no matter what life threw at you, you were able to keep moving forward, right? And it's protecting the compounding principle, right? The damage of a 0 day versus the compounding gain of a minimum, right? Again, you can have, like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 days in a row where everything goes perfect, but that one day where you get zero, now your momentum is completely reset. Now you have to start off from scratch. You have to build it all back up from the beginning. But if you protect it with very minimum gain, right, that's still forward progression, right? What we're doing is we're stopping the inverse of progression. We're stopping the negative toll that doing nothing has, right? Doing 5, 10 minutes, right? It's going to take you a tiny little step forward, right? Meaning that the ball did not stop moving. Then the next day, you can pick it back up on full speed, right? The purpose here is to halt that zero momentum because once that zero progress, that zero momentum comes, you're going to start going into a spiral. Then everything's all downhill from there, right? Very simple. Stop this negative progressive spiral that kind of just derails everything you were trying to accomplish. Point five is that if you do not have a recovery protocol, one bad day is going to become three. And it's not going to stay there. It's going to become a week, then a month, then an entire year of you spiraling out of control because you had nothing in place to stop you from doing so. The problem is not missing a day because we're human. We all make mistakes. Nobody is perfect. Nobody is consistent 365 days out of the year. It's going to happen. The problem, in turn, comes from what takes place afterward. If you do not have a recovery protocol, some kind of system in place, a fail-safe in place for when those bad days come, how am I going to get back on track? Then chaos, entropy is going to take control and you are going to lose every single time. So the reset cycle, right? You'll miss, spiral, restart Monday, then you'll miss again, right? But if you want to prevent that from happening, you need a defined move for when your natural system gets disrupted. Not when it's working, not when everything is perfect, but you need something in place when things go wrong. This is what a lot of people fail to understand. All of the productivity space is like, oh, just lock in, here's this system, here's this tactic, here's this framework. Okay, but what happens when things go south? What happens when the train is off the tracks and we're falling off the bridge and there's a nuke coming down at us at Mach 10. What am I supposed to do then? And then, you're kind of just left on your own and you get cooked. So what we're going to do is establish something, install a recovery protocol so that when that happens, it's not going to have an effect on you. So you need a re-entry plan, a re-entry protocol. So name this in advance, right? If I miss, the next move is XYZ, right? You need to decide before the disruption, not during it, not after, because it'll be too late by then. But once you have it in place before, when that thing takes place, boom, I run through step 1, 2, 3, 4, we're cooking again, right? This completely removes the shame spiral from the equation entirely, right? This protocol makes re-entry more of a mechanical thing, not an emotional thing, not a motivation thing. Mechanics. Excuse me, I need to sneeze. Okay, we're back. But you should need motivation to follow a pre-decided move, right? You just need the rule. Once the rule is in place, motivation isn't really going to matter because it's already been set in stone. Your brain already has established that this is what I'm going to do when this takes place. So when it takes place, it's what you're simply going to do, right? The concept you need to understand here is never miss twice, right? One miss is human, but two becomes a pattern forming. This is a rule. This is not inspiration. It's not some woo woo quote. It's reality, right? It's it's a design constraint, right? It's built into the system because when you miss twice, that's becoming a habit. Once the habit forms, it's going to be difficult to break. So never miss twice, right? Again, this has been built into the system for a very specific reason, right? So understand that discipline is not something that you summon. It's something that you can build. It is something that you can design. 5 friction points, 5 design decisions, right? No willpower, no motivation required to get them done. You'll get locked in. All of this is just a truth, right? It's just the reality of the situation. Every fix was a change in design, right? That tired version of you, the busy version, the version who doesn't want to get out of bed, the version that just wants to laze around and scroll all day, they all need the same thing. A system that does not require them to be at their best 24/7 because nobody always is. This is what it means to have frictionless consistency, right? It's not less work, it's not doing less, but essentially the friction between you and the work is now less. It's non existent. So, again, this is not, nothing touched on in this video was overly complicated or complex or life changing, revolutionary, groundbreaking, reinventing the wheel, new version of the slice of bread. Very simple frameworks that have been positioned in a way to where they actually make sense, to where you can actually follow them, to where you actually make progress once they are implemented, right? Again, but the important factor here is that everything I just told you in this video is useless. All of it is pointless, given that you do not sit through and follow through with what you have learned. Otherwise, you would have just wasted the last 30 minutes of your life. I'm sure there's other things you could have been doing with this time. So, I suggest give this video another watch, take some notes, and actually implement the processes, the systems, the frameworks that were given, and you're going to start seeing some change in the positive direction. Hopefully you found some value in this video. Hopefully you learned something new, and hopefully you realize that, again, when it comes to consistency, when it comes to discipline, it's not a matter of motivation or inspiration, but a matter of design. When you change the design, you can change your life. And if you want help building a personalized focus system that's going to allow you to escape this stop start cycle and finally stay consistent on what truly matters to you, executing so that you can finally get to the next level, click the first link in the description. Click this video here or over here, so wherever I put it on the screen if you want to learn something new, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.